Will everyone please join me in Gassho as I read the words of our founder, Master Shingon Shonin. To reveal the true teaching, it is the larger sutra of the Buddha of immeasurable life. The central purport of this sutra is that Amida, by establishing the incomparable vows, has opened wide the Dharma storehouse, and full of compassion for small foolish beings, selects and bestows the treasure of virtues. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone. So it is wonderful to be here, and still so wonderful to see so many people coming to temple. Usually from when I was growing up in the temples, when Sunday service would happen in the summertime, the service would be very, very sparse. And actually, for some temples, they actually sort of go on a summer break during the summertime, and especially when the Dharma school kids go on summer vacation. The only services that were usually done are during the Shotsuki services, where they commemorate and remember the members who have passed away in that particular month. But the rest of the Sundays were, free and open days. But it's so wonderful that everyone here still has a strong eagerness to listen to the Dharma as written and delivered to us by Master Shinran, as well as recited by Shakyamuni Buddha. Forgive me again, I'm a little tired. I just got back from California yesterday. I was there on business for teaching the Tokudo candidates who are almost ready to go on their trip to Japan to receive ordination from the head temple. So what was a little bit actually not more difficult, but I guess you could say more work, was that for this trip, we had the candidates from both Hawaii, or from all Hawaii, Canada, and Europe come to the Jodo Shinshu Center. So originally, Reverend Noki and I were probably working with about 6 individuals. That increased to about 11. So it doubled the work, but thankfully, because we had that many people, we were able to do more services or have more roles for the service. So a lot of you are very much only used to seeing just myself up on the Onaijin. But it's also a wonderful and a very heartfelt thing to see when you have 6, 7, maybe even 8 priests on the Onaijin chanting the same thing, right? And that is what we were definitely working on for these Tokudo candidates. That being said, because you are only used to seeing me on the Onaijin, or because I'm by myself on the Onaijin, I can kind of set the pace, set the pitch, set the tone, everything like that. So when you have about 8 people on the Onaijin doing something a little bit different, it can sound a little chaotic. So the challenge for them is to uniformly recite and chant the same thing for everyone else's benefit. One of the best examples of seeing this, of course, is if you are able to go to Japan to the head temple and go to a morning service at Nishihonganji and listen to 10, 12, 14 priests chanting the Shoshi Nembutsuge. It is one of the most beautiful things I think you will ever listen to. So today, actually, I would like to finish the Dharma questions that were given to me. And I would, I love these Dharma questions because it really allows me to hear from the Sangha and to digest what you're hearing and what you want to hear, and sort of like, what's connecting with you and what's not. So let me go by the second to last question in this box. What do I do if I am not really connecting with Sensei's messages? This is a very good question. And whoever wrote this question, I don't want you to feel bad about writing it. It is totally fine that you feel this way. Sometimes you may not connect with what I say. And this is actually very similar to a question that I answered last weekend is, what if I don't agree with something that Sensei is saying? Once again, I am not here to dictate to you what you are supposed to believe. I'm not here to tell you that you must follow these set of rules and orthodoxies in order to be born into the Pure Land, right? I'm not here to deliver that kind of a message. Now, of course, if there is something that you are either confused about or if I said something that you don't understand, always, please, always feel free to email me, to talk to me, or to say, Sensei, you said this thing today, and I either don't agree with that, or I didn't understand that, or can you please explain that to me a little bit more? I am always here to listen and to respond and to, take constructive criticism as well. Because even though I'm wearing these robes and I'm standing up on this box here, right? That doesn't mean that I'm infallible, and that doesn't mean that I'm perfect, and that doesn't mean that I myself can't do better. If my messages aren't connecting with you, please feel free to talk to me and tell me that, what is it about my messages that's not connecting with you? This is always something I need to hear. All of that, and also, if we could remember as well that I am a Jodo Shinshu priest. So many of you have listened and probably read many wonderful writings by writers like the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, Ajahn Brahm. I'm just naming off some wonderful Buddhist teachers that I know off of the top of my head. Even Alan Watts. I heard like last weekend during coffee hour, we were having a brief discussion and someone brought up Alan Watts as well. These are all wonderful Buddhist teachers. These are all wonderful teachers who have studied the Dharma and who deliver messages and give wonderful and have produced wonderful writings as well for us to read. And I have nothing but respect for these teachers as well. That being said, there are also schools, different schools of Buddhism. Now, I, of course, am a total supporter of pluralism, and I am a total, believer that we all should get along with our fellow Buddhists here in the United States, and you should all definitely check out different schools of Buddhism and see what aspects about them that you like. These are wonderful schools of Buddhism. I have friends actually and fellow colleagues of other Buddhist schools. I have a wonderful Zen friend who I sometimes can talk to about religious matters and ask about things. Though I am a Jodo Shinshu priest, because I was ordained in the Jodo Shinshu tradition, it is very important for me, and of course for the head temple, that I deliver Jodo Shinshu messages. I was tasked by the head temple to deliver messages of Shinran Shonin. And this isn't to say that this is the only thing you're going to hear from me, right? My Dharma talks, I am doing my best to try to diversify the content and diversify the examples and not be so heady. I also fully accept and totally take responsibility for the fact that when I first started, and if you can actually, there's video documented evidence of this as well. When I first started here at the Tacoma Buddhist Temple, my Dharma talks were a little bit too scholastic. And I spoke in a way that made it seem like all of you should already know what certain terminologies are. When I say, Buddha bodies or things like that, like it's like, oh yeah, of course the audience knows what that is, right? I was speaking, of course, as if I were just coming out of grad school, which in a sense I kind of was. It also didn't help the fact that we were in the pandemic and I was speaking to a camera or I was speaking to a computer screen. And so, I couldn't really see your reactions and I would just, film myself talking. And in a sense, I became more of a YouTube producer than a priest standing here as well. So, it's taken some time actually for me to adjust to speaking to a nice, large Sangha here that is present in person. But with that being said, sometimes as well, Jodo Shinchu is not for everybody. Jodo Shinchu messages, right, may not resonate with you, and that's totally fine. Oops, that is totally fine. I think that all people are on their own spiritual journey. And of course, it's not that we don't want you here. Anybody, all of you, let me say, everybody is welcome here to the Tacoma Buddhist Temple. You are welcome to come to service, to all of our social events, and to all of our public celebrations. Of course, I want to re-emphasize that anyone and everyone is welcome here. But that being, and that if Jodo Shinchu Buddhism or Jodo Shinchu messages isn't what you really are, in the mood for, that's not a problem either. So I want to emphasize that this place as a community space, all people are welcome. And if you could have a bit of understanding in terms of my messaging, that to know I will, as a Jodo Shinchu priest, deliver Jodo Shinchu Dharma messages. I am not trained in the style or in the tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh. I am not trained in His Holiness the Dalai Lama's version of Buddhism. Not to say that I haven't read and digested some of their works, but I definitely don't know the nuances that that they have in their teachings the way that I was trained in Jodo Shinshu. That being said, always feel free to tell me anything. I never want anyone to be afraid that if they say, Sensei, you said this in your Dharma message, I didn't very much like that, right? Never feel afraid that I'm going to get mad at you or, attack back or try to throw the book at you in a sense. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to deliver Shinran Shonin's message to you to the best of my abilities. And I will continue to do that with open ears and an open heart. Lastly, this last question in the box, and then after today, I will put the box back in the foyer so you can write your questions again. What is the proper way to gassho? How many times do we say Namo Amida Butsu? Is Namo Amida Butsu interchangeable to Naman Dabu? Very good questions. There's actually many questions in this question. Okay, so for the first question, I can get off of the podium here, and it's fine because I actually have the mic so our friends online can still hear. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, see, this is why you don't sit in the back. It's always a tradition in BCA temples that most people sit in the back. But if you can't see me in the back, you might want to stand up for this part. Okay, but if so what is the proper way to gassho? Let me first answer this by saying that, again, I'm not here, however you choose to gassho, I'm not here to tell you, you're doing it wrong, right? This is not a martial arts dojo, right? This is a Buddha dojo. This is a Buddha way of doing things, right? So, I'm not going to smack your hand or have a stick and smack your head if I don't see you bowing correctly or something like that. Now, of course, don't do something disruptive, right? Don't like throw the incense everywhere or anything like that. But, but I know that you are all reasonable in this way. But if you're asking about the sort of standard, what Jodo Shinchu teaches is the way to do gassho, I will first say this. Okay, step number one. Okay, you'll see me from the back first, and then I'll perform from the front. Step number one, you approach Amida Buddha, and then you walk forward with your left foot. So you stop here, left foot first, and then walk towards the incense burner. Then, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I went one step ahead. Okay, you stop here first. Stop in front of, stop right about here, and do what's called a small bow or yuhai, and then come up.
Sensei, you may do the reverse while you're doing that.
Yes, that's good. That's a good idea. Okay, good. Thank you. This is why we have minister's assistants, right? So you step up, walk up,
and then do a small yuhai. Then step forward with your left foot, and then approach the incense burner with your right hand, okay, right hand, take a small pinch of incense, just one, and place it on top of the burning charcoal. Now you can admire the smoke that comes up, and then place your hands together in gassho and say the nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandatsu, Namandatsu. And then bow in what's called a raihai. This bow is a little bit deeper. And hold for maybe like 1 second more. Then come up, and then place your hands at your side, and then step back with your right foot. And then do a small bow. Okay, one more time. Approach Amida Buddha. Small bow. Step forward with left foot. Take a pinch of incense with the right hand. Place it over the burning charcoal. Put your hands together in gassho. Recite the nembutsu. Namandatsu, 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 namandatsu. And then Lai Hai bow. Come on up. Hands at your side. And right foot back. And yuhai. And that is the proper way of, the standard way of doing gassho raihai. Thank you very much, Eric, for
Show folks like how to hold your hand normally, like during service and things. That's all
Yeah.
specific to Jodo.
So in Jodo Shinshu, we hold our hands right here on our sternum, right? We don't hold it out here. We don't hold our hands up here. You know, you see some Buddhist schools doing this, right? For us, we're simple. We just hold our hands next to our sternum, and our fingertips are about 45 degrees pointed upwards. Okay, not out like this, not up totally vertically, just about 45 degrees. And then this way, when we bow or yuhai, our hands are actually parallel to the ground. And then we come up. There are many Buddhist schools that have various ways of doing things, Buddhist rituals. One thing that you probably have seen, and I'm certain many of our members who are more senior to the temple, who have been coming here for a long time, have probably seen some members doing gassho or oshoko like this too. They take the pinch of incense and they put it to their head, and then they put it into the incense burner. How many of you have seen that before? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Now, that's not a bad thing, right? That is not the standard way of offering incense. But what that probably indicates is that when your ancestors first came over to the United States, that your family was probably part of a different tradition of Buddhism that wasn't Jodo Shinshu. And of course, not to say that Jodo Shinshu's rituals haven't evolved over time, but this standard way of doing gassho raihai or oshoko has been standard for the past 100 some odd years or so. So it's of course you see people, you will see some people bring the incense to their heads and then put it down. That comes from the Zen tradition, the Tendai tradition, and Shingonshu does this as well. So many schools of Buddhism offer incense in different ways. Our way is kind of basic, which is not a bad thing. The next part of this question is, how many times do we have to say Namo Amida Butsu? I'm so glad that this question was asked, because I'm like, ooh, like Shinran Shonin actually wrote a whole dissertation on this subject, because there was a great debate during Shinran's day of you should say Nembutsu only once and really mean it, and that is your birth into the Pure Land. But other people were saying, you should be saying Nembutsu as many times as possible. Honen Shonin, Shinran Shonin's teacher, said Nembutsu 10,000 times a day. How many of you say like 10,000 words per day? There's probably some folks, but how many of you just spend how many times have you said Nembutsu already today? Have you counted it all? Have you kept track? Probably not. And if you kept track, stop. That's not the point. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. For all of you who have been to Japan before, and for those of you who will go to Japan in the future, you will go to the head temple and you will see many people go just like in the hondo, just randomly, namandats, 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 namandats. And you know, it was interesting because my first experience going to the head temple, I saw this. Now, remember, I was raised in the United States going to the Sacramento Buddhist Church. And there, the minister had to prompt the congregation to say Namo Amida Butsu. So I say Namo Amida Butsu, you say Namo Amida Butsu. So it goes like this, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. There you go. That was what I was raised on. That's what I grew up with. So I thought that was normal. And then I went to Japan and I went to the head temple and I just saw these people, namandats, 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 kind of loud and a little like, you know, not in your face, but, you know, kind of like, it shocked me. And I thought they were the weirdos. But you know what? I was the weirdo. I was the one who was like, you know, but you know what? Then that's my 20-year-old self talking. My 36-year-old self says neither of us are the weirdos. It's because here in the United States, Jodo Shinshu is still new. Jodo Shinshu in Japan has existed for over 800 years. So that religion has been very much ingrained in their society. But here in the United States, you know, our country, our nation is not even that old. And so, you know, we actually do need some prompting. If I never told you to say Nembutsu or Namo Amida Butsu, would you say it? Probably not. You know, there needs to be instruction in this. Now, should we stick strictly to this Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo, you know, should we stick strictly to that? Probably not. Hopefully it gets you to the point where, you know, you can actually feel comfortable saying Nembutsu on your own when you feel a very poignant and a very sturdy religious moment in your life, right? And it doesn't have to just be reserved for the temple, right? You know, you can say Nembutsu in your house, in front of your own Obutsudan, or in front of, you know, an image of Amida Buddha, right? You know, you don't just say Nembutsu in the temple either. I remember driving with another sensei in Japan one time in his car, and you know, we came to a stop sign, and I remember him kind of going, "Namandats, namandats, namandats," while in the car, right? And again, right, just being myself, I'm like, you know, I don't do that in the car, you know, it's weird, you know. But no, of course, if you feel this spiritual resolve or the spiritual moving and feeling within you to say Nembutsu, go ahead and say it. So it's not how many times you say it, it's that you say it. You don't just say it once, but you also don't keep a tracker. There's actually, you know, there's an app now, like I think the Chinese made it, but it records the amount of times you say Nyanpo. Ami Tofo, Ami Tofo, Ami Tofo, and it'll actually count for you how many times you say it. You know, but that's not what we teach. What we teach is it's not the amount of times that you say it, it's that you feel that you want to say it. Is Namo Amida Butsu interchangeable to Namandabu? Yes, yes. So Namo Amida Butsu, right, is the standard way of saying this in Japanese's pronunciation of Chinese. But for chanting purposes as well, it's about flow, right? Namandabu, namandabu. That sounds a lot more melodic and nice than Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, you know, right? But, you know, placing your hands together and just going namandabs, namandabs, namandab, namandab, you know, it's fine. The important thing, right, is the feeling behind it. So, you know, and actually for those of us here who are not of the Japanese tradition, there are actually many ways of saying Nembutsu. So the Chinese language says Ami Tofo or Namo Ami Tofo. And there's a way of saying it in Vietnamese and in Korean. I think one of the senseis of the BCA, I can't remember which, but on his car, he actually had these stickers on his windows that had all the various ways of pronouncing Namo Amida Butsu, depending on the language that, that it was being spoken in. So these are definitely interchangeable, right? And of course, I'm not going to harp on you, especially if Japanese is not your first language, like for saying it the way that you do. The important thing is the feeling that you have behind saying it. What prompts you to say it? Amida Buddha should prompt you to say Nembutsu. So with this in mind, I bring all of this up because I read once again the quote from Master Shinran Shonin's Kyogyo Shinsho. This comes from the first chapter, which is his magnum opus, which is his, in a sense, dissertation talking about the Pure Land Way. And all of what we just talked about comes from this aspect, that the true teaching is from the larger sutra of the Buddha of immeasurable life. This is the sole basis of our teachings here. The fact that Amida Buddha saves all sentient beings from the world of suffering. While, of course, we don't just focus on after death, and in fact, we focus very much on this life, that we take refuge in the Buddha's teaching, that we take refuge in Namo Amida Butsu, right? And again, it's not that Namo Amida Butsu is going to make you rich or powerful or get you that promotion you wanted or the car that you've been eyeing, right? But it's that spiritual settlement that we are looking at here. Are you spiritually settled? Are you truly hearing the Dharma? And with this in mind, I very much enjoy these questions because it helps me to know what's connecting with you, what isn't, what can I do better to connect a Jodo Shinshu message for all of you without staying super orthodox and by the book and everything like that. Now there are standards that I have to, of course, that I myself have to deliver to you when we deliver these Dharma messages. But what way can I connect these messages to you that makes it relevant? This is the question that I have to answer, or that I have to ask myself every single weekend. So thank you all so much for joining us today for this Sunday service. It's so wonderful to see wonderful packed Hondo here on a Sunday service in the summertime. Please join me in Gassho and recite the Nembutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Nam mandaps, nam mandaps, nam mandaps.